Hi, BookTube. It's Gina, and I'm here today to do an original tag. I created this tag because I was thinking up some ideas and making some notes on why I love Star Trek. And I was going to call it Why I Love Star Trek and You Should Too, because I think Star Trek has so many fun things and so many important topics dealt with in a fun and interesting way. And as I was coming up with my ideas, I realized it would be a really fun tag. So instead of just doing a video, I decided to create an original tag. So this is the top 10 reasons to love Star Trek, an original BookTrek tag by me. Prompt number 1 is around technology. So in Star Trek, technology has saved the world. And we're really living through a technological revolution right now. I think in so many ways, there was the agricultural revolution, the industrial revolution, and we're living through that time now where technology is really changing things. So the example from Star Trek that I have on a really interesting technology piece is I just watched a Voyager episode called Night, where the crew of Voyager tries to share some technology on how to deal with waste with another culture. And the culture is not interested, or the people that they're dealing with are not interested because they are actually garbage disposers and are worried they're going to lose their source of income, which is another really interesting question. But Voyager and Star Trek really have figured out how to deal with waste. So they've solved some of the problems of our time with technology. So question number 1 is, tell us a way that technology has helped you, and what is your favorite tech? My favorite tech is my iPhone. I'm using it right now to film this video. I use it for a phone. I use it to keep in contact with people. I use it for everything. And I love my iPhone. It's definitely my favorite piece of tech right now. Prompt number 2 is cooking has become an art rather than something that is required for survival in Star Trek. They can replicate food, they can easily get their hands on food for the most part. And by the time they get to Star Trek The Next Generation, people are mostly vegan, which I find really interesting. They explicitly state that in The Next Generation, not in all of the other series. In Deep Space Nine, Sisco prepares special meals to express his love. So for this prompt, I would love to hear how you eat. What are your eating habits? Do you have a favorite cookbook or a favorite food story? And do you like to entertain or cook for people? So I'm going to share this Ottolenghi Plenty cookbook. This is actually a vegetarian, vibrant vegetable recipes from London's Ottolenghi. It's not vegan, it's vegetarian. I'm not a vegan. I love cooking for people. I love sitting around eating together. I also express my affection and love for people by cooking for them, and that's my cat. Sorry. And so I'm really interested to hear about how you like to eat, what your eating habits are, and if you like to cook for people and share meals together, because I think that is one of the best ways to share affection and conviviality. Question number 3. One of the really cool things I think in Star Trek is that there is no need to exchange money. And by the time we get to The Next Generation, Picard says the acquisition of wealth is no longer the driving force in our lives. We work to better ourselves and the rest of humanity, which I think is a very cool sentiment. And so for this prompt, I would like to hear, what is your best money advice or money book or money YouTube channel? And my favorite money advice is drive it till it quits. My dad told me this advice when I was probably 16 when he bought my first car. It was an old 1975 Mustang II that was kind of falling apart when I got it, and which was only until like 1983. It was not that old of a car, but and my dad said, drive it till it quits. And I'm convinced that I have money these days because I never spend money on cars. I drive them till they quit. And that has served me well. So what's your favorite piece of money advice? Or do you have a BookTube channel or a YouTube channel that you like that talks about money? I'd love to hear that. Prompt number 4, they drink a lot of coffee and tea. And I love the episodes, especially in the original series, where someone brings Kirk and the team a cup of coffee on the bridge, usually a woman. That's a whole nother story. But they sit around, they drink coffee together, and always at the end of the original series, they're sharing a smile or a joke, and I just love that. So the prompt for this is, what is your favorite beverage? And do you like going out for coffee? So I do love coffee. I also love tea, but I'd have to say coffee is my favorite. And I love going out for coffee, similarly to the reason why I love cooking for people and sitting around and eating together. I think having a cup of coffee together with a person is just a wonderful, fun way to sit around and share stories and talk and visit. Okay. Prompt number 5. All the Star Trek series attempt to address social issues of their time. Sometimes they do it better than others. I'm not saying they're perfect on the series, but they always, they're very usually relevant to the era in which they are developed. What is your favorite book on a topic that is important to you? And for this one, I'm actually going to talk about, and I'll link it above, I did a review on Strangers from the Sky, which is the first Star Trek book that I ever read, and was very interesting because I thought it was very relevant and very topical even today, even though it's been written, I think it's written in the 80s. It's quite an old book now, but really dealt with terrorism, with people's fear of aliens, fear of the other, in such an interesting way that I thought it was a really interesting and well-written book, and much more than I was expecting from a Star Trek book. So I'm so glad that I started out with that one. Prompt number 6. Relationships. Spock and Kirk have the best relationship on any show or series ever. I just love their relationship. I love both of those characters. I love the way that they interact and deal with each other, try and figure out the other, and they're so different, and they're oftentimes perplexed by the other, and yet they love each other, and that affection clearly comes through in their relationship on this show and in the books that I've been reading. The prompt for this one is to share a book with a unique or complex relationship, or if you're a Trek fan, share your favorite Star Trek relationship. And of course, my favorite Star Trek relationship is Spock and Kirk. Prompt number 7 is the uniforms and the style on the show. I love the style of the Star Trek TV shows. Over the years, the uniforms and the character style has changed and evolved. Some of them have been hideous. Some of them have been fantastic. I mean, can you say hello, Mr. Chekhov, with a wig? That was horrible. But the prompt for this is, do you have a personal uniform? And do you have any fashion or style faux pas from the past? And I was raised in the 80s, so I have pictures of myself with the big perm. You guys, I had a perm that stood out. It was hilarious. So that is my big style faux pas. And I do also now, over the years of kind of trying to figure out what to wear, now that I'm 53, I do pretty much wear a uniform. Uniforms have become kind of popular in the simplify your life world these days. And I am definitely a lazy dresser. I like to keep things simple. I had a friend walk into my closet once and we were getting ready to go out or something, and she said, "Where do you keep all your clothes?" And I was like, this is it. These are all my clothes. But in the summertime, you can pretty much find me in a tank dress. As the weather cools down, I put on some leggings and some warmer shoes, put a jacket over it, and I do move on to jeans at some point when the weather gets cool. But I definitely am a streamlined dresser, shall we say. Prompt number 8 is Star Trek has been wonderful at spawning this culture of fan participation and conventions and community, which I just think is wonderful. What is your favorite TV show or movie, book, author, or event that brings you together with your community? So for me, of course, Star Trek is definitely a community. I don't really do conventions and I haven't really read books in the past, but I feel a real bond with people who love Star Trek. And also my community now, I think, is BookTube. This has been such a treat for me. This has brought me together with so many wonderful people. I did Jane Austen July last month with that community. It was so much fun. So I want to hear about the community that you identify with and what brings you together with that community. Prompt number 9 is Star Trek books have beautiful and weird covers, and I love these Star Trek cover art. For this one, I would like to see your favorite book cover art, your favorite weird and wonderful book, and I'm going to just show you these fun Star Trek books that I have recently bought because I think they are fantastic. This is Mudd's Angels. Look at that beauty. This is Planet of Judgment. This is Trek to Mad World. That one's fairly normal, but the expressions on their face are like, oh. And World Without End, which is the one that I'm reading right now. It's the alien on this cover. So I just would like to see some of your favorite book covers, your favorite weird books. And question number 10, I love Star Trek's hope for the future and the vision that Star Trek has created, the optimism and the hope for humanity. In The Next Generation, Data's always trying to become more human-like. He explores relationships and friendships, and I think it's absolutely wonderful. The prompt for this is, are you a pessimist or an optimist when it comes to being human? Do you think that we can make the Star Trek vision and dream a reality? I'm usually an optimist. I've been feeling a little more pessimistic these days with the pandemic. I think nature is sort of reasserting herself against humanity. But overall, I am an optimist, and I'm hoping desperately that we can achieve the Star Trek vision, dream, hope of a community that gets along, that doesn't need money, that has figured out how to feed everyone, which I just think there's so many wonderful things and messages in Star Trek. So thank you so much. I'm now going to tag some people. So of course, my co-hosts for BookTrek 2021 are tagged. That is Vin at Revenant Reads, Steve Donahue, Michael K. Vaughn, Mark at Richardson Reads, and then there are a couple people that are in our Star Trek Voxer group that I would also like to tag. That is Christina at Knitting Books, etc., and Mark at Book Time with Elvis. And I also want to tag Dave and Olive at Book Blather, because even though they don't have time to read Star Trek books right now, I know they both love Star Trek, and so I would love to hear their take on the Star Trek original tag, 10 Reasons to Love Star Trek. Thank you, BookTube.